Mia Brooks pressed her forehead against the cool window and watched the rain blur the streetlights into long glowing streaks. The words on her phone felt heavy in her hand. "Miss you already. Hope work is going well." It was a message from Liam Carter, the person she cared about most, now living 3 states away. Each word should have felt warm, but instead it reminded her how distant he had become. Since Liam moved to Silverton for a new job, Mia felt lost in her own city. Every morning she woke up expecting to share coffee on the porch with him. Every evening she reached instinctively for her phone only to find silence until he had time to reply. She missed his easy laugh and the way he remembered small details about her day. Now those memories floated in her mind like paper boats in a flooded river, fragile, drifting, and hard to reach. Mia tried to stay busy. She worked longer hours at the local library, stacking books and helping visitors find the stories they needed. She volunteered at the animal shelter on weekends, walking shy dogs into sunny fields, yet none of it filled the hollow ache inside her. The more she filled her days, the more she felt the empty space where Liam's presence once was. One night, after reading Liam's late reply, "Sorry, I've been swamped. Let's video chat soon." Mia sat alone in her living room. Thunderstorm rolled overhead, rattling the windows. She imagined the storm inside her heart, wild, loud, and uncontrollable. She felt at the mercy of something larger than herself, like a tiny boat tossed at sea. Her mind returned to a poem she once read about hope, how the smallest light could guide a lost traveler home. That line sparked something in Mia. She stood, determination settling in her chest. She would not let distance become an unbreakable wall. Humans were known for overcoming great odds. If her heart could feel this much pain, it could also create a path back to joy. The next morning, Mia bought a notebook and colored pens. Instead of texting Liam with the same tired words, she decided to write him a letter. She filled page after page with their shared memories, late-night stargazing on her roof, silly dances in the kitchen, whispered dreams about traveling the world together. She described how empty her life felt without him nearby, and how much she wanted to hear his voice more than any other sound. She mailed the letter with care, folding it in a blue envelope and adding a small sprig of dried lavender for scent. "When you read this," she wrote on the front, "remember that I believe in us." Then she waited, her heart fluttering between hope and fear. Days passed. The weather warmed into early summer. Mia's library shelves bustled with visitors, seeking books about new beginnings and adventure. She smiled at each guest, but her mind drifted back to the letter lost somewhere on its way to Silverton. One afternoon, her phone buzzed. A video call from Liam. Mia froze, her breath caught in her throat. She tapped the screen in his face. Appeared framed by warm light. He was smiling bigger than she had ever seen him in a message. "Mia," he said, his voice cracking. "I got your letter today. I read every word and I finally understand how much this has been hurting you and me." Tears sprang to Mia's eyes. She laughed through them, and Liam laughed back, relief shining in his gaze. They talked for hours, sharing the details that had built up between them, his lonely weekends in a new city, her proud but quiet work at the shelter. They made plans. A weekend visit, a shared playlist of new songs, and a promise to video chat every Wednesday. At 6, as the call ended, Mia leaned back in her chair, the room brighter than it had been in weeks. She felt the fierce warmth of human connection return, stronger for having been nearly lost, at the beast's mercy. She was saved by a human stranger, she whispered to herself only this time. The beast was her own loneliness, and the stranger was the heart she knew so well. Mia tapped her fingers on the windowsill as she watched the last rays of sun fade behind the rooftops. It was Wednesday at 6, the time she and Liam had promised to talk each week. But her phone sat silent. She stared at the blank screen, remembering how alive she felt when his face first appeared there. Now, after 2 months of regular calls, something had shifted. His replies were shorter, his smiles less bright. Mia wondered if the same distance had crept back between them. She tried to fill the gap with small things. She sent him photos of the shelter's newest dog, wrote brief notes about her day, and shared the latest book she loved. Each time, she waited, hoping his answer would bring back the warmth they once had. But the hours stretched on, and sometimes he never replied. At all, her heart tightened. She cared about him more than anyone else in her life, yet she felt powerless to reach him. The distance was the same 3 states, but it felt like an ocean now. Mia wondered if she had made a mistake trusting his promise to stay close. That night, she found herself in the same spot by the window, but this time she did not wait for Liam's message. Instead, she stood up and went to her desk. She opened her notebook, the one filled with memories and hopes, and stared at the blank page that followed her last letter. Humans, she thought, had always found ways to build bridges across impossible gaps. If her simple words and photos were not enough, she needed something more. She needed to remind Liam that their bond was worth fighting for. Mia reached for her colored pens and began to draw a map. At the bottom, she sketched her own neighborhood, the library where she worked, the shelter where she volunteered, and the block where her apartment stood. At the top, she drew Silverton, its rolling hills, the coffee shop Liam loved, and the park where he liked to run. Between the two, she drew a winding path of dotted lines and small hearts. She added notes along the path: book swap, dog video date, stargazing night, surprise visit. Each idea was a promise of something they could share, in person or online. She wrote, "Let's meet halfway, and I believe in us." When the map was done, Mia folded it carefully and tucked it into an envelope. She addressed it to Liam's apartment in Silverton, then paused. A simple flat envelope might get lost. She needed to be sure he saw this. She decided to send the map in a small wooden box. At the craft store, she found a thin birch box just big enough. She painted it light blue and wrote "Our Path" on the lid in white letters. Inside, she placed the rolled-up map, tied with a ribbon, and a tiny compass charm. As she worked, her heart felt lighter. For the first time in days, she felt like she was doing something to change their story. The next morning, she dropped the package at the post office. The clerk smiled, asking, "Who's the lucky person?" Mia smiled back, her voice steady. "Someone who needs a little reminder that distance can't break what matters." Days passed, and Mia tried to stay busy, yet she did not worry so much. She knew she had given Liam something real, something no busy schedule or slow internet could erase. Then, it's kind of clear Friday, a message arrived on her phone, a photo of the small birch box. Opened and empty, placed on Liam's desk. Under it, he had laid out the map, the compass, and a handwritten note. "I see our path, Mia. Let's walk it together." Mia's hand shook as she read his words. She dialed his number, and when he answered, his voice was warm and sure. Thanked her for the gift, explained how the map reminded him of all the ways they could stay close, promised to plan each stop together. That evening, Mia found herself back at her window, but this time she watched the stars instead of the streetlights. She held the compass charm in her hand and thought of the path she and Liam would draw together. The distance was still real, but it no longer felt like a wall. It was simply the space where two hearts learned how to meet halfway. And as she looked up at the sky, Mia knew that hope like a star could guide anyone home. Mia pressed her palm against the smooth surface of the little compass charm. It felt cool and real, a small promise of the path she and Liam would walk together. After sending the map and compass, she and Liam had talked every day for a week. Their messages were full of plans, good books to swap, dog videos to share. That first halfway meeting at a lakeside town called Silverbrook. On a bright Sunday morning, Mia packed her car with snacks, her favorite blanket, and the old sketchbook, where she had drawn their map. She checked her phone. Liam's message read, "See you at noon by the blue gazebo." Her heart fluttered. Humans could solve hard problems with simple kindness, she thought. This meeting was another chance to prove that. The drive to Silverbrook was 2 hours long. Mia sang along 2 songs on the radio, sometimes laughing at the silly lyrics, sometimes feeling tears tickle her cheeks. Each mile brought her closer to Liam and farther from the loneliness she had felt. She reminded herself, hope is stronger than fear. When she arrived, The town looked exactly as she had drawn it, a small park beside a clear lake, with a painted blue gazebo in the center. Mia parked her car under an oak tree and took a deep breath. The air smelled like fresh grass and early summer flowers. She smoothed her hair, grabbed the sketchbook, and walked toward the gazebo. Liam stood there, smiling at her in a striped shirt she remembered from old photos. His face lit up when he saw her. Mia felt her chest tighten with joy. She stepped forward, and they hugged gently at first, then more tightly, as if they could both hold on to each other's warmth. They sat on a bench inside the gazebo. Liam handed her a thermos of coffee and 2 paper cups. "I thought we could share it while we talk," he said. Mia accepted the cup and sipped. The coffee was warm and strong. It tasted like hope. They opened the sketchbook together. Liam traced the dotted line from Mia's home to Silverton. "This map," he said softly, "showed me how much you cared. I nearly cried when I saw it." Mia felt tears of her own. "I wanted you to know that I would walk this path," she replied, "even if it meant driving 2 hours alone." They spent the next hour planning. First stop, a small bookstore in Willow Creek, where they would exchange favorite novels. Next, an animal shelter, where Liam would volunteer for an afternoon. Then, stargazing on a quiet hill outside of Silverton. Every idea made them laugh and lean closer. Mia felt the old spark return stronger, wiser, and more hopeful. As they talked, a gentle breeze rippled the leaves overhead. A duck family paddled by on the lake. Child's laughter came from a nearby playground. The world seemed full of small wonders waiting to be shared. Mia realized that human beings could find connection even when the odds felt against them. All it took was a compass of caring and the courage to follow its needle before leaving. Liam reached into his pocket and pulled out a small paper star. "I made this for you," he said. "Every Wednesday I'll send you a paper star with a note. That way, you'll always have something from me." Mia unfolded the star and read his tiny handwriting. "Hope guides us home." She smiled and tucked it into her sketchbook. They hugged again, slower this time, savoring the moment. "Thank you," Mia whispered, "for meeting me here, for the stars, and for believing in us." Liam brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Thank you for the map, the compass, and for never giving up." Mia walked back to her car with a light heart. She placed the paper star next to the compass charm on her dash. As she drove home, the miles felt shorter than ever before. The map they had drawn was not just ink on paper, it was a promise of shared tomorrows. That night, Mia sat by her window with the compass and the star. She looked at the dark sky, imagining the path of dotted hearts stretching between her city and Silverton. She whispered to herself, "Distance can never break what we build together." And she knew it was true. Human hope and kindness would always guide her back to the one she loved. Mia woke to the sound of her phone buzzing on the nightstand. It was a paper star from Liam, taped to a new map of Willow Creek, the town where they'd shared their first halfway meeting. The star's tiny note read, "Let's build our story." She smiled and slid out of bed, her heart warm with purpose. Since their lakeside visit, Mia and Liam had kept their promise. Every Wednesday he sent a paper star with a new note. And she replied with a small gift, a pressed flower, a doodle, or a line of poetry. But now they wanted something bigger, a shared project that could bridge the miles more deeply. Mia brewed coffee and spread their maps across her kitchen table. She marked the spots they'd already visited, the blue gazebo at Silverbrook, the bookstore in Willow Creek, and the shelter where they'd volunteered. Then she added empty circles for new places, a hiking trail near her city, a virtual cooking class, and an online stargazing event they could attend together. She snapped a photo of the updated map and sent it to Liam with a message. "Let's fill these circles." Almost immediately his reply arrived. "I love it. Let's start." With the cooking class, Kaya's smile grew. Humans had new ways to connect, even across oceans of distance. That evening, Mia logged into the virtual cooking class. The instructor guided participants through making apple turnovers. Mia chopped apples and cinnamon, glancing at her laptop. Screen where Liam stirred his bowl on the other side of the continent. Their laughter echoed through her headphones when they both spilled flour onto their counters. "Mine looks like a snowstorm," Liam said, brushing flour from his glasses. "Mine's more like a moon crater," Mia replied, shaking her head. They dusted off the mess and tasted their warm turnovers together, describing the sweet and spicy flavors. Even through the screen, Mia felt closer to him than she had in weeks. After cleaning up, she pulled out her sketchbook and drew a new star on the map for the cooking class. Then she set up a video call to share her sketch. Liam grinned when he saw it, and he promised to add his own doodle and apple with a heart around it. Over the next few days, Mia and Liam planned their next adventures. They signed up for a beginner's stargazing webinar, where they would learn to identify constellations. They marked Star Night on both their calendars and agreed to meet online on Saturday. On that clear Saturday, Mia set up her small telescope in the park behind her apartment. The air was cool, and the ground smelled of damp grass. She logged into the webinar and saw Liam adjusting his lens in Silverton. They waved at each other and laughed as they both fumbled with the telescope knobs. The host pointed out Orion's belt and Vega's bright light. Mia found Orion first. The 3 stars aligned like a belt across the sky. She called out, "I see it." Liam whispered in excitement, "Me too." They watched the streaming view together, feeling like they were side by side under the same blanket of stars. After the class, Mia wrapped a scarf around her shoulders and stared up at the sky. She imagined Liam looking at the same constellations. The distance felt smaller, mere miles instead of a great divide. That night, another paper star appeared in her inbox. Inside the folded star, Liam had written, "Our story is in every little thing we share." Beneath the star, he attached a short audio clip. Liam's voice softly reciting a poem about 2 hearts guided by the same northern star. Mia listened in the dark, her tears glinting in the low lamplight. She whispered back into her phone, "I believe in us." The next morning, Mia received a small package at her door. Inside was a handcrafted journal with a faded leather cover. On the front, Liam had embossed the words, "Our shared journey." He had mailed it to her so she could write down their plans, drawings, and memories in one place. Mia ran her fingers over the leather and smiled. She opened the journal to the first blank page and wrote, "May this book hold every step we take together, no matter the miles between us." She added the map and a pressed flower from her garden. Then she closed the cover, feeling the weight of hope in her hands. That evening, Mia video called Liam and held up the journal. He grinned, as if he could almost touch it. "I'll fill the next page," he promised, "with our first real visit together." Mia's heart soared. They didn't know exactly when that visit would happen, but humans were good at turning dreams into reality. She hugged the journal to her chest and whispered, "I can't wait." In that moment, Mia knew that distance was not a barrier, but the space in which their story would grow. And with every shared star, turnover, and star map, they were building something enduring, one heartbeat. One hope, one human moment at a time. Asked ChatGPT. Mia woke early on a crisp Saturday, her journal open on the kitchen table. Last night, she and Liam had chosen dates for her first real visit 2 weeks from now. She would drive to Silverton and stay in a small guest house near his apartment. Mia felt a flutter of excitement and a twinge of nervousness. After months of maps, stars, and cooking classes, she would finally cross the miles for a face-to-face meeting. She brewed strong tea and wrote today's journal entry under the heading "Our First Visit." She listed the things she wanted to pack: her favorite sweater, the compass charm, and the wooden box of paper stars. Then she wrote down the places she and Liam had planned to see: the Hilltop Park, the cozy coffee shop on Maple Street, and the old bookstore tucked behind the train station. She wrote, her heart swelled with hope. Humans could turn dreams into plans when they cared enough to try. Later that morning, Mia called the guest house to confirm her reservation. The owner, Mrs. Ortega, spoke with a gentle voice and promised to leave the key under the mat. Mia thanked her and hung up, feeling more confident. She realized that small acts, booking a room, making a list, sending a confirmation, were steps that built a bridge between 2 hearts. Over the next days, Mia balanced work at the library with preparations for the trip. She labeled boxes of clothes in her closet. Weekend bag, cold weather, extras. She printed a list of emergency contacts and saved Liam's favorite songs into a playlist for the drive. Each task reminded her that humans were builders. We built walls, but we also built roads, plans, and connections. On the morning of her departure, Mia loaded her car under a pale dawn sky. She placed the journal on the passenger seat and slipped the compass charm into her coat pocket. As she closed the door, she whispered, "See you soon." The engine rumbled to life, and she pointed the car toward Silverton. Following the dotted line of highway signs, the drive was calm. Miles of rolling hills passed by, dotted with wildflowers and grazing sheep. Mia played Liam's playlist and sang softly to their songs. When she felt tired, she pulled over at a roadside rest stop, wrote a quick note in her journal about the scenery, and stretched her legs. Each small pause felt like a human ritual. We slowed down to notice what matters. Late that afternoon, Mia turned onto Maple Street and saw the guest house at the end of a narrow lane. It was a pale yellow cottage with ivy climbing its walls. She parked, grabbed her bags, and stepped onto the porch. The key was indeed under the mat. Inside, the room was cozy. A single bed with a quilt, a window overlooking a garden, and a small table set with a kettle and 2 cups. Mia arranged her things, then sat at the table with her journal. She wrote, "Arrived safely. My heart feels loud and glad." She folded the journal, placed it in her bag, and left the room. Across town, Liam waited at the bottom of the hill that overlooked the city lights. He carried the wooden box of paper, stars each star, holding a message of love and hope. When he saw Mia's car pull up, he smiled so wide that he almost forgot to breathe. Mia climbed the hill and saw him waiting, the box in his hand. Their eyes met, and for a moment, time held still. She walked toward him, and he held out the box. Inside, another map laid, this one drawn by Liam, showing a path from her guest house to the hilltop, marked with stars and hearts. I thought, "We could start our journey right here," he said, voice soft. Mia opened her arms. "I'm here," she whispered, "and I'm ready." They walked together toward the edge of the hill, where the city glittered below. Liam took her hand and pointed to the stars above. "We're under the same sky," he said. Mia squeezed his hand, feeling the steady beat of human hope in her palm. That night, they sat side by side, sharing stories in person for the first time in months. Mia realized that her sadness had shaped her courage, that her hope had guided her home. Humans could cross great distances when they cared enough to try. And under that shared sky, Mia and Liam began the next chapter of their story together. Mia woke to sunlight slanting through the curtains and the soft sound of birdsong outside the guest house window. Last night's meeting on the hill had felt like a dream, but now she was here sharing morning with Liam in real life for the first time. She dressed quickly and tiptoed down the narrow stairs to the small kitchen, where Liam was already making pancakes. "Good morning," he said, flipping a pancake with a practiced flick. "Thought I'd start us off right." Mia smiled, breathing in the warm smell of batter and syrup. "You did." She poured coffee and sat at the little table. Outside, the garden glowed with early blooms, and the sky was clear. It felt like the whole world had opened up just for them. After breakfast, they set out to explore the town together. Liam led Mia down Maple Street, pointing out places from his daily routine: the coffee shop where he sketched ideas, the bookstore alley he wandered for inspiration, and the little bakery that sold fresh fruit tarts each morning. Mia listened with bright eyes, feeling proud and excited to see his world. They stopped at the bakery and shared a tart under a striped awning. A sudden breeze brought a few raindrops, startling them. Mia laughed and opened her umbrella, held her hand and led her inside, where the baker, Mrs. Ortega, recognized Mia from the guest house. "Welcome, dear," Mrs. Ortega said. She handed them a small box of extra tarts. "On the house. Enjoy your day." Mia's eyes filled. "Thank you," she whispered, That simple kindness, human kindness, made her heart swell. When the rain cleared, they followed a winding path beside the river. The water was clear and cool, rippling over smooth stones. Liam picked up 2 stones flat and round and handed one to Mia. For skipping, he said. Let's see who can make the best ripples. They spent a happy half-hour tossing stones and laughing when they sank or jumped. Each ripple felt like a promise, small actions making wider circles of connection. Later, they reached the hilltop park where they first hugged in person. Now the view was even more stunning. The sun high in the sky, the lake shining like polished silver. They sat on a bench, pulling out Mia's journal and Liam's wooden box of stars. Together they wrote new notes for each star, dreams for tomorrow, memories of today, and hopes for always. Then Liam's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. My boss needs me on a video call in an hour, he said. I'm sorry. Mia's heart sank. She understood work was important, but part of her fear crept back. The same fear she felt when miles separated them. What if distance took over again? She forced a smile. Go ahead, she said. I can wait here. He kissed her forehead. I'll be quick. He hurried away to find a quiet spot for the call. Left alone, Mia watched families picnicking. Children chasing bubbles and the gentle sway of tree branches. She breathed in deeply. Humans had faced greater challenges, storms, long journeys, even wars, and still found ways to care for each other. She could wait. She could believe. When Liam returned, he looked relieved. All set, he said, ruffling his hair. Sorry about that. Mia stood and offered her hand. Let's head to the art gallery I told you about. She led him down a hidden trail covered in wildflowers. Inside the small gallery, local artists displayed paintings of the town's seasons. Mia pointed to a bright canvas full of orange and red leaves. This feels like our journey-changing colors, but still beautiful. Liam smiled and wrapped an arm around her. We're still here, together. By late afternoon, they sat on a bench near the train station, sharing a quiet moment. Mia pulled out the little compass charm and held it between them. This brought me here, she said softly. And this? She tapped his wooden box of stars. Keeps me close, even when you're busy. Liam nodded. We make our own compass, he said, and our stars guide us back. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, they walked back to the guest house hand in hand, stopping to pick fresh lavender along the way.
Oh.
That evening, they brewed tea and watched the sky turn pink and gold. Mia rested her head on Liam's shoulder and whispered, I'm glad I came. He kissed her hair. Me too.
Ow.
In the gentle glow of dusk, between shared smiles and simple acts of kindness, Mia knew that distance was only a test. Human hope and love's small gestures like pancakes. In the morning, or a borrowed umbrella would always build a bridge strong enough to carry 2 hearts home. Mia woke before dawn on her last morning in Silverton. Through the window, she saw mist rising from the lake and felt a peaceful hush over the town. Tomorrow she would drive home, and the mileage would grow again between her and Liam. A gentle sadness fluttered in her chest. But she also carried a deep warmth from their days together. She dressed quickly and paused to look at the compass. Charm hanging by the bedside lamp. It guided her here, reminding her that hope could point the way when she felt lost. She slipped it into her pocket and tipped her toes down to the small kitchen where Liam was making breakfast again. Good morning, he said, flipping an egg. Last day treats. Mia smiled and poured coffee. They sat close at the table, sharing warm food and quiet smiles. Outside, a single robin hopped through the garden, as if it came to say goodbye. After breakfast, they packed Mia's bags in the car and locked the guest house. Liam handed her a small envelope. One more gift, he said. Inside was a simple leather bookmark, hand-stitched with a tiny star and compass embossed in gold. For your books, he explained, so you always know where this chapter ends and the next begins. Mia's eyes filled. She pressed the bookmark to her heart. Thank you, she whispered. They climbed into the car and began the drive back toward her home city. The road curved past rolling hills, past the rivers they had walked beside, past the fields they had watched birds skim over. With each mile, Mia watched Liam in the passenger seat, his hand resting on hers, and felt the miles shrink. They stopped at the halfway point by the blue gazebo in Silverbrook. It was the place where her journey first felt real. They stepped out, wrapped in light jackets against the morning breeze, and walked around the gazebo, now silent and empty. Liam held Mia close and said, "This place will always remind us how far we've come." She nodded and leaned against him. The gazebo, the map, the stars, the compass, all of it had brought them here. They sat on the bench, and Liam took out the wooden box of paper stars. He opened it and handed Mia one last star. She unfolded it and read his note. "Distance is a path we choose to walk. Choose it with you." Mia smiled through tears. She unfolded another star she had kept for this moment. It read, "I choose you every mile, every day." They pressed the two stars together like a heart. After a while, they climbed back into the car and continued. Eastward, Mia drove, and Liam rested his head on her shoulder, both thinking of the future they would build. Soon the fields turned to suburbs, and the suburbs to city skyline. The compass charm swung on Mia's keychain, reminding her of her strength at her apartment. They unloaded the car. Liam helped carry the last box inside. Mia hung the bookmark in her living room next to a shelf of novels. She placed the compass charm on a small dish by her front door. These tokens would remind her of hope and human ingenuity, of the ways people could overcome distance. They sat on Mia's porch swing, holding hands. The city traffic hummed in the distance. Mia felt again the familiar comfort of home mixed with the ache of goodbye. She looked at Liam and said, "Thank you for making this possible." He smiled. "We made it possible together." They planned their next visits and new adventures. A trip to the mountains in the fall. A holiday journey to see Mia's family, even a longer vacation next summer. They set dates in calendars and in their hearts. Every plan felt like a small bridge built across the miles. That night, before bed, Mia opened her journal and wrote the final entry for this chapter under the heading Home Again. She wrote about the kindness of strangers, the gifts they had shared, and the strength she found in hope. She drew a tiny map linking Silverton and her city with a dotted line and little hearts. Then she closed the cover and placed it on her bedside table. Liam leaned over and kissed her cheek. "Good night," he whispered. Mia hugged him and replied, "Good night, Tan, thank you." As she drifted to sleep, she imagined the compass charm pointing true north to Liam, and the bookmark marking the end of this chapter but not the end of their story. She knew humans were capable of great things, of building paths, of bridging distances, and of keeping hope alive. And she knew that no matter how many miles lay between them, her heart and Liam's heart would always walk side by side.